Mr. President, shortly I will offer a unanimous consent request on legislation to extend enhanced unemployment insurance for folks in America who are out of work. Now, I'm going to begin with a quick check-in on the economic reality in our country. Here's where we are in a sentence. Only half of the jobs lost earlier this year have actually come back. The other half may never come back. There is substantial evidence that many of these jobs will be lost forever. The permanent layoffs are stacking up. Right now, 25 million Americans are receiving unemployment insurance. Their insurance payments were slashed when Republicans let enhanced unemployment insurance expire at the end of July. Here's a particularly important fact. The number of Americans filing new claims for unemployment insurance is still higher than any single week during the Great Recession. Upwards of 8 million Americans have fallen into poverty over just the last few months. In the month of September alone, just September, nearly 1 million women dropped out of the workforce. And to make matters worse, the pandemic that is causing all of this economic carnage is just getting worse as the fall coronavirus wave begins to rise across the country. The restaurant and the bar industry have been hurt, the travel industry, the live entertainment industry. We're talking about millions and millions of workers who are out of a job right now, plus millions more who are worried that they're going to get laid off this winter as COVID-19 infections rise. So the fact is, despite what Donald Trump says, our economy isn't anywhere near fully recovered, not even close. This jobs crisis won't be over until the public health crisis is over. That's why, in the meantime, the only reasonable and logical thing to do is to bring back enhanced unemployment insurance and keep those benefits for the duration of the emergency. That is what I'm calling for this afternoon. That's what I believe members of Congress should be for. The proposal that I offer extends the crucial programs from the CARES Act. The extra $600 per week, what we developed in the Senate Finance Committee. I see the distinguished Republican leader, Senator Thune, who serves on our committee. We work together often. We developed it there, the extra $600 per week, pandemic unemployment assistance for the self-employed and additional benefits for them. My God, Mr. President, the unemployment system was actually brought into this century. The old system was close to 100 years old. Nobody ever heard back then of a gig worker, but we got them covered. And so we want to extend those programs until January 31, 2021. In addition to the enhanced unemployment benefits, what this does is it avoids throwing millions and millions of Americans over a financial cliff essentially at the end of the year. Now, it's my judgment, this is just basic economic fairness. This is about making sure that tens of millions of Americans who walk an economic tightrope during this pandemic will be able to pay the rent, put food on the table, buy medicine. And tens of millions of Americans, from sea to shining sea, from Portland, Oregon to Portland, Maine, desperately need this lifeline. Continuing to block an extension of enhanced unemployment insurance, in my view, is the economic equivalent of going for herd immunity with COVID-19, telling the most vulnerable people out there that they are in effect on their own, that their government has no interest in standing up for them. Now, from the beginning of this pandemic, my colleagues on the other side have opposed the enhanced unemployment insurance concept that I'm talking about. Back in March, Senate Democrats said replacing people's lost wages was going to be right up at the top of our priorities list for the CARES Act. I consider it, Mr. President, one of the most important efforts I've been part of during my time in public service. And we were all able to get it in the bill. Turned out it was the only provision that the Republican majority attempted to remove. Just process that for a moment. We had a debate on the floor of the Senate. There was only one thing Senate Republicans wanted to remove. They wanted to remove the provision I'm describing that would give millions of Americans who are hurting the opportunity to make rent and buy groceries and get their kids sneakers and pay for medicine. I'm still incredulous by this, but actually one member of the minority came up to me before we voted and said, Ron, what you're talking about is going to cause nurses to leave their jobs now during the pandemic and go into retirement and get unemployment. And I said, you've got to be kidding. And I handed the senator the article from the local papers that described how nurses were actually coming out of retirement to work during the pandemic because they cared so deeply about their community. Fortunately, that Republican effort that night to gut the expanded unemployment benefits failed. And now I think we have people from across the political spectrum saying that that program has turned out to be one of the most successful safety net programs in decades and decades. Now, for months, Republicans have been repeating the same story about why they oppose the expanded unemployment insurance. They say it's because what we did is holding back the economy, that it is a disincentive to work, and lazy workers are choosing to sit at home collecting insurance. Wrong, wrong, wrong. It was wrong from the beginning, and it now should be obvious. Enhanced unemployment insurance expired at the end of July 31st. If those insurance payments were really shackling our economy and being a disincentive to work, then why wasn't there a mega boom in hiring in August? The fact is, job growth slowed down immediately after enhanced unemployment insurance expired, and it plummeted in September. So the reasons to bring back enhanced unemployment insurance ought to be clear. It's the right thing to do in terms of economic fairness for workers, and the main argument against enhanced unemployment insurance has been proven wrong. And finally, renewing enhanced unemployment insurance is absolutely key to protecting our public health. The pandemic is raging now. Cases are going up. There are hot spots all over the map. We're in what so many of the experts say is the tip of the third wave of the virus. Cold weather coming up, folks being indoors. In some parts of the country, mayors or governors may soon face the possibility that certain areas could go back into lockdown. Business owners might begin to wonder if staying open is too dangerous a prospect, particularly if you're talking about places like restaurants and cafes. Taking the steps needed to crush the virus is going to be a lot easier if workers have the backstop of enhanced unemployment insurance, so they've got the money in South Dakota and Oregon and every part of the country to make rent and pay for groceries. Blocking enhanced unemployment insurance creates a disincentive to crush the virus with strong action. It will lead to more people spending more time in more hotspots, perpetuating both the tragedy of the pandemic as well as the tragedy of an anemic economic recovery. Mr. President, I'll close with this. It does not have to be this way. There's a lot more work to be done. State and local governments need more funding for hospitals and testing. We need support for our schools. We need support for basic municipal services. There ought to be more opportunities to talk about those issues in the days ahead. Right now, passage of enhanced unemployment insurance is long overdue. I see my friend from South Dakota, who I've worked with often in the Finance Committee. We have been on this floor again and again over the last few months talking about this. I offered a proposal with the distinguished Democratic leader, Senator Schumer. We thought that was something that would be appealing to both sides. But the bottom line is, for this chamber, as we're looking at the coronavirus spike again, to say we're not going to stand up for people who are just trying to make rent and pay for groceries. Somebody asked me at home, I was just at home, I got into virtually every nook and cranny of my state over the last couple of weeks in a socially distant way. People said, what do I see people spend money, the unemployment money on? They said they all seem to be in the grocery store. And I said, they're paying for rent and groceries and essentials. They sure aren't using unemployment money to buy scarves or fancy things from overseas. They're using it for essentials. So my view is the Senate has no choice but to extend the enhanced unemployment insurance. And Madam President, as if in legislative session, I would ask unanimous consent that the Senate proceed to the immediate consideration of my bill to provide continued assistance to unemployed workers, which is at the desk. I further ask unanimous consent that the bill be considered read 3 times and passed, that the motions to reconsider be considered, made, and laid upon the table.